you should see this triple view layout where we have hypershade at the top, we have our perspective view in the lower right, and we have outliner in the lower left. First I want to show you guys something. So let's look at what are the objects, what are the pieces of Leprechaun, and let's check out its UVs, because knowing the UV layout for the object is very important for us to decide how to assign shaders to various objects. So sometimes if you have a filter on, right under display you'll see that you have this icon. Okay, so if you see this icon and you're seeing only a limited view, maybe only showing your lights, it means you probably have some sort of filter on. If you don't worry about it, but if you see this particular icon, click on it and that'll turn off the filter. As you can see now, I have everything that's in my scene, well, the main objects anyway, because there's also hidden objects and we don't need to worry about those. So those are all of my default cameras up here. So there are 5 pieces to the entire scene. In fact, the top 4 are the ones specific to just the Leprechaun, and those I believe share the same UVs. So select the Goblin, the Leprechaun, the clothes, and the metal, and let's check out their UVs. So go to Window, UV Texture Editor, and let me move it over from this other side here. So as you can see, all those pieces, regardless of whether it's part of the clothing, part of the skin, the lantern, the goblin, it's all sharing the same UV space. What that means is once you finish painting all the textures, even though you're going to have different shaders for skin and metal and whatnot, so they each have different levels of shine and different surface properties, it's still going to share the same texture. Okay. You'll see how that works a little later on once we have all the shaders and textures set up. But it's important to always understand how the UVs are laid out, so you know how to assign the proper shaders to them, as I mentioned earlier. And of course, the floor is on its own UV space, as you can see. So that is definitely going to have a separate shader, and it's going to have just the textures associated with that wooden floor. Okay, so again, if you select Goblin, Leprechaun, Clothes, Metal, you'll see this, and this is where these are the areas where the painting that you do in Mudbox are going to lay on top of. Okay. So now with that understanding, we're going to go ahead and create a base shader, and it's going to have all of the textures plugged in, and then we're going to create duplicate shaders with connection to network. So let's go ahead and create a DX11 shader. And let's name this. Let's call this, let's give it something specific. Let me start with the clothes, and then I'll make one for skin and make one for metal. And if we find that we need any more, we'll probably create a 4th or even 5th one. But I think maybe 3 should be enough. So I'm going to call this clothes underscore DX. The reason why I always use the underscore DX suffix to the name for all of these DX11 shaders is that I might sometimes have certain shaders that are not DX11, such as blends and fongs and whatnot. And as you remember from the King's Treasure assignment, that you started off with all the Fongs, and then it was part of the assignment was to create DX11 materials to replace all those Fongs. So you would need to have this type of naming convention, otherwise it'd be very easy to confuse which ones are the DXs and which ones are the Fongs. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And let me now drag over the textures. So let me go ahead and grab it from my other folder here. There it is. Okay, so the textures I want, so as you can see, there's the these are the original textures that came with the model. Again, these are the textures that you are not allowed to use. One of the restrictions I've mentioned in the PDF document for this assignment is these, you can find these online, but of course it would be considered cheating if you use these in any form, even if you heavily modify these in Photoshop, then even those are not allowed. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in all of these Leprechaun files. So in your case, these would be ones that you've just finished painting in Mudbox, and I'm going to drag them into the work area in Hypershade. Okay, then I can minimize this window. Okay, and I'm just going to lay these out over here. An alternative way of laying it out, if you don't feel like taking all of those textures off the stack manually, is to click this button, which is Rearrange Graph. Again, keep in mind that whenever you drag multiple texture files from Windows Explorer into Maya's work area, that they're going to come in a stack. It's not just that there's one file that came in, they all came in, but they're all stacked right on top of one another. So you need to either manually move them off, or you need to just hit Rearrange Graph. And as you can see, it lines everything up for you. However, I want this to be a vertical orientation. So I'll just put things in this order. So let's go ahead and put whatever is your diffuse / color map at the top. This is going to be the specular map. As you can see in this example here, the things that are non-metallic have just grayscale values in their spec, and the things that are metallic, I believe this guy was going for either brass or gold. As you can see, those have color in their specular values. So be sure, if you choose to use some sort of colored metal such as gold or bronze or brass or copper, anything like that, that the specular map has color over those areas for the metal. Okay, and of course, the easiest way to identify a normal map is just seeing that it has mostly this kind of bluish purple color with some sprinkling of green and red. And this is the incandescence map. The incandescence map, it should be mostly black with just a few bright areas, and the incandescence map basically determines what parts of the model appear to be glowing. So the incandescence map is independent of your lighting. What that means is, even if I were to disable or remove or hide all the lights in my scene, these areas that have anything brighter than pure black, these areas defined in the sometimes it's called incandescence map, sometimes it's called the emissive map. I believe in DX11 it's called the emissive map. So wherever there's lighter pixels in the emissive map is where it's going to appear to be glowing, even when no light is hitting it.